welcome to another blog post. I'm joined again by Connor and Ben, and today we're going to be talking about how we can use effective questions in our coaching styles and how it can help us develop our athletes. So first off, I want to talk about what is the purpose of using questions. So we all know obviously what a question is, but it's how they are proposed to the athlete. So have you two ever seen this in your own coaching or used it?
Yeah, I think in terms of asking questions to your participants, it's about making sure that what you're trying to get across and trying to teach them is actually going in, so we need to make sure that we're not getting responses that they think you want to hear, so giving them the opportunity to solve problems themselves, so setting up an activity and seeing if they can solve out what you want to do in that activity, giving them the chance to learn, and asking them, asking them to solve the problem themselves instead of you giving them the answers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's very important. You see it a lot. I try and do it as much as I can within my coaching. It's just about asking little prompting questions before and after you're doing whatever little drill or game you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing if whatever they're meant to be learning is going in and trying to get out of it.
Yeah, great. Whenever you've seen it or used it, I assume it's been quite successful. They've come up with the answers that you've wanted, yeah?
I think sometimes, especially if you're doing something a little bit more complex, you have to ask a few more prompting questions and guide them to the answers a little bit.
Right.
But I think eventually you tend to get there quite easily.
Me personally, my coaching and my questions, there might be a specific answer that I wanted, but this doesn't necessarily have to be the only answer. I think as a coach, you've got to be aware that sometimes the answers that they come up with may be viable as well. You're asking them to be creative and think about answers, and if you're asking a question, well, why do you think we're doing this drill? And you want them to say passing, but they come up with stuff like teamwork or communication and stuff like that. Even though they're not coming up with the specific answer you wanted in the first place, I think as coaches we've got to be aware that the answers they are providing themselves could actually be quite beneficial and a good way to coach as well. Not just like, oh no, that's wrong, what do you think, and moving on to the next child. Well, oh yeah, communication, we are working on that, that's fantastic as well. So while we're communicating what we're trying to get them to do, again, like you said, trying to maybe a little prompt after that, but there's a good way of asking more questions and getting more engagement from our participants to come up with their own answers and not just the answers that we want ourselves.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're saying that as well as being able to see that they're making sure that they understand where you're coming from and what you're hoping to see from them, you're also being able to obtain the information that they're seeing as well. Because as a coach, we might have one goal for that day, like you might say working on passing, but if you ask your say your class at the end, okay, so what did we work on today? And a few of them say teamwork. That's really great because we get to see that they're thinking about that as well as passing and whatever other drills that you're working on. And that sort of brings me to the next section that we're going to see. So by using questions, we're using divergent thinking, so using like their imagination, we're giving them a question that springs to different ideas, rather than just giving them like, here's what we did, this is what we had, which is what is called convergent thinking, which is just giving one fact and one fact and one fact, which leads them to the question. So it's basically saying that thinking outside the box can sometimes be a lot more beneficial to the clients themselves. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think personally, like we were just saying then about if you set up an activity and you give the opportunity, and if you say to them, right, we're going to be working on passing, then this is more obviously your cognitive thinking. You're giving them an answer. You say, right, this is what we're working on, and then asking them questions like that. That's direct. This is all we're going to be working on. This is what I want you to concentrate on. Where if you set up an activity and then you go, right, what do you think we're going to be working on? You're giving them the opportunity once again to take responsibility for their sessions, take responsibility for their own development, whether at what age, especially as you get higher up the sports continuum and the higher you get in age level and stuff like that. there's more participation, participant led, giving them the opportunity to take control of their development, take control of their sessions, and to give them the responsibility of, right, well, if we're doing this, what's that going to lead to? Why am I doing this? What's the benefits for this? And I think that's a good process that we can review ourselves, so not just asking questions to our participants, but reviewing ourselves and asking questions to ourselves. So, why have I done this session? What have I got out of this session? What can I improve? How can I improve it? What do I need to do to improve my participants even further in the next couple of sessions?
Yeah, totally agree with that. I mean, working through getting ideas out of them, and I think as well, if possibly you can work it the other way and think, right, today we're going to be working on this skill, or whatever, say passing, then we can try and prompt ideas out of them. So how can we work on passing? What can we do? Them giving us ideas, taking control of their own session, like you said, and going through. And again, you can lead them towards things that will help them, right? And they can lead their own sessions almost. So
Yeah, great. Well, you touched a bit on how old the participants might be. Do you feel like there's one particular age group that this is particularly targeted for, or do you feel like you can use this within all stages of your coaching?
no, I think you can use it at all stages of coaching with all of your participants. It's just possibly you might go into more depth with people that have had more experience within the sport, that people that know what they're talking about almost. Because if you're taking a bunch of 5-year-olds doing a session, first time they've played it, and you start throwing a load of technical jargon at them, they're not going to have a clue what you're on about.
I think that's a great point. I think depending on the age, depending on how deep you go into the questions, what jargon you use, you see a lot of coaches throwing out, jargons like switch it, and in football, and they're using it with 7-8-year-olds, and they're going, what? It's like a prime example. There was a year 5 team in a school, and the coach shouted on the pitch to one of the players, sit on halfway, sit on halfway. To which the kid, the coach went, stand on halfway, watch in case they break. And the child, not knowing what the coach meant, the player sat down on the halfway line. You've got to think of the jargon that we use, and that's a prime example. The player, he's learning the game, he's trying to adapt, and the coach is shouting, sit down, sit on halfway, sit on halfway. So the child sat down, and I think that's a prime example of when we're questioning kids, or any, novices or younger age groups, that we need to make sure that our questions are relevant and to the actual, like you said, to the standard, that we're expecting. You can't be asking, which, like when we're teaching dribbling, you break it down, and so which part of the foot do you think we're going to use? Well, we can use all the foot, and why, and then as you progress, you might say, why do we use all our foot? Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why do we want this? If I do this, as you start getting higher in the, well, if I do this, what could happen? And progress it like that. So obviously you gain the knowledge of the game, but that comes with our knowledge as coaches to be aware of where we're going with it and what sort of, how pressing we need to be, and not necessarily getting the answers that we want, but still developing them as participants.
Right, fantastic. Have you got any other points that you want to add into this, Connor?
I was just thinking about another study that I read recently as well. It was talking about preschoolers in America, and how if you showed them a video of somebody talking, they wouldn't take any of it in. But as soon as you start asking them prompting questions afterwards, so okay, what were they talking about here? Then that's when they start to learn. And they start to take things on board. And I just thought that was quite a good study, because it shows how important questioning can be to the learning process, and it can easily be taken to sport.
Yeah, I think with that study, and other studies as well, if you say to it, if you start talking about, right, we're going to pass, we're going to use this, and this, and then you ask, a child to show you, then most of the time, you know, if you're instructing to a child will struggle to, you know, because most of it doesn't go in. Where if you start off with the basics and go, you know, what part of the foot do you think you can use? How are we going to dribble? You know, how do you think we can dribble? Then show me.
Yeah.
It's reinforcing what we want, but it's led by them. We're not instructing, we're not telling them this is how we want it and stuff like that.
Great. Okay. So I think that really brings a close to this this podcast at the moment. Yeah. Keep your eyes up for another one.